Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I can't find my way.
I can't find my way.
That's right. Get it.
What a great band. What a great band. All right, everybody. We've had a really weird day. We've got tech gremlins have joined us. We've had all kinds of craziness. There's madness. If you're here, say hello. Help us exercise the demons. All right. That was, for those of you who missed the show this morning, that was our guest, Paul Nelson, who was just, what a hell of a guy. Man. Really great guitar player, super nice guy. And I don't know what to tell you, man. I just really enjoyed having him on.
Yeah.
And, he just, what a great dude.
He plays like he breathes. It's just,
Yeah, I'm just trying to, let's see, we shift to the next one. One went out. That's for later. But in the meantime, let's get out of here. And let's, like I said, today's been a very weird day technically, but it's over almost. And we've got our guest, Billy Hulting. He's waiting in the back room. Hey, Gina. Hey, Rick. Everybody climbing into the room. I appreciate you coming by. I'm telling you, man, we've exorcised the demons. This is not our typical broadcast day, but hey, you have to have one of these once in a while. Billy's here. He's in the back. Look at him. He's back here. I'm here. I love it. We're going to have him on in just a minute. You know what? We're not going to go to a break. We're just going to go ahead and get this shit going. Billy, welcome to Live with Me. How are you?
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm better. Things seem to be working.
Hi, Mandy.
How's it going?
I very well know the experiences of having talk shows go down in flames.
Yeah. So, well, I know we've both entertained that a time or two over the years with the thing. Mm-hmm. For everybody watching, Billy has an excellent podcast. You haven't been doing it quite
anymore. It died.
It's dead. Okay. It's officially off the respirator. Well,
right.
Cool. Sometimes it's time to do something different. But while we're talking, just on cool stuff you've been up to, I got to ask you about the Himalaya trip, man. What? Tell us about that, because that's really cool.
Yeah, I went to Everest Base Camp recently, and the reason is I was looking for more things to do out of the country, some trekking and sailing adventures and stuff like that. And a friend of mine had used a specific guiding company, and I was looking through their stuff over in Nepal. She had just done the Annapurna sanctuary trip, right. And I saw that they did Everest Base Camp. Now, my father had done it back in 1980. It was a really big deal. He loved the Himalayas. He said he would. We're up to him. He'd have just moved there, spent the rest of his life hiking around. So I saw this and I texted my brother. I said, "Hey, you want to do this? I'm available these dates." And the next morning he said, "Yeah, let's go." So we signed up, and it was actually it's an amazing trip, but to have the emotional layer on top of it of doing a tribute to my father, we took some of his ashes. He passed away at the beginning of COVID, not from COVID, but so we never got around to meeting his wife and taking the ashes up. So we still had some, and we took a little bit with us there. It was pretty cool.
That's really great. I saw the pictures and I just was like, wow, what a great trip.
Yeah, it's tough because I look at the pictures and they're just memories of the environment I was in. Photos, at least not the ones I take, can really capture it there. So
isn't it
what
hard
I do now?
What you remember when you travel and you see something that's just so overwhelming in size, then when you take the pictures, no matter how great they are, in your mind the scale never really compares. I find myself.
An interesting thing about photos is, and this is something anybody can do at home, is think of somebody and then are you thinking of an experience with them, or are you thinking of a photo you have of them? And 99% of the time we're thinking of a photo.
Absolutely.
So I started when I take photographs, I do a lot of traveling and this and that. I try to at the same time remember what the temperature was like, what the wind was like, what the sun felt like, or the clouds, or any. Just try to remember that. So when I see that, I'm taken back to the actual moment I was there, and it's not just here's the mountain.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
sure.
so
So how high? Oh, by the way, Mandy, Billy,
Hey,
Mandy.
Billy. How's it
Hi, Mandy.
going? Nice to meet you.
She's our
You
new
too.
unindicted co-conspirator.
Nice.
She's a singer in a rock and roll band, plays a mean saxophone, and an all-around
Cool.
musical girl. Also, a redhead like yourself, or close sometimes.
I'm actually just
Kind
just
of
a
brown now,
brunette, but
Yeah, my band's name's Twisted Ginger. So Twisted
nice.
Ginger's got to stick together.
Great rock and roll.
I'm not red in any way, shape, or form. It just might be the background. But I appreciate the gingers.
So, what have you been doing lately? What are you working on right now? What are you diving into? Starting anything new? Finishing old? What are you up to?
I'm in the middle of a couple of big band projects, and it's two different composers. I don't know if it's okay to say their names online by them or not, but they're great big band composers, and they're both doing like 2 albums at the same time, and they send me the tracks, and I'm doing those. And
Is one of them a drummer?
No.
Okay.
One is a bass
One of
player,
our
and one
friends.
is a composer. No, it's they're really well established people, and the music is great and it's super fun. But it's one of those things. I think a lot of times they send you, it's like, oh yeah, just do some tracks. But of course, I'm sitting there and I've got like 9 tracks on every tune because like, oh wait, this needs triangle here just once, and then it's that kind of stuff, and it's detailed work. And
Are you doing it
so
in your place, or are you in a bigger room?
I do everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the middle of this. This is kind of a mess, but you can
That's
see.
why we got all the wood blocks and the goodies. Yeah.
The thing is, I take an instrument out to use it, and then I don't put it away. It just goes on the floor here.
I can't
Like here's
imagine that has never happened.
the kabasa right here, and then a couple of keshishi. There's useful, and then I have like a little mini maraca and this cool thing, and then some bells. This one's missing a string.
That regular Foley setup
It's
sitting right there in your console, man.
It's going to take me 3 weeks to put everything away after I'm done.
I know the feeling. I'm not going to show anybody what my studio looks like. I had a client come in yesterday to finish editing some video for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got drum tracks being done, and there's a snake across the room, and it's just kind of a mess. It looks like there's 4 projects at various phases, and none of them are done.
It's how I work. So
you know what? Me too. I just have all the shit in a place and kind of drag what I need.
Yeah.
And that's such a luxury. You think about how good we have it today as musicians.
Yeah.
You think back to like everything we take for granted, like rewinding, not having to pull a tape out of the garbage and splicing it with some terrorized band looking at you like. I mean, I was the last class they taught to edit tape at Full Sail. At the time, that didn't seem like such a big deal. I figured tape would be around another 5 years, and yet while it's still around, digital was just so cheap that the bean counters run everything. And when you sell them, you want to buy like $1,000 worth of Ampex.
Well, I appreciate the convenience of digital editing and things like that, and just like jumping to a part and knowing where it is and just overdubbing. It's just great. But the funny thing is, like, some guy called for
the sound of a 2-inch tape and the smell in the room. That's the smell of victory, man. And the sound of it, I find it. I miss that smell. You don't smell.
They should make air fresheners for that. Modern times.
Yeah, spray little.
Something about it.
It's like a tree.
It's like an apocalypse now thing. You kind of get into the mindset. You're winning here, I used to love to walk in.
Tree. Never mind. Instead of a little tree that hangs in your car, you have a little like tape reel.
Yeah,
it just smells like tape.
Yeah. Call it like keeping it real or something.
You can have that idea. Go, Mandy, just take it.
So,
no, but the funny thing is, I try to encourage people to just let me do the tracks here, because if I hear something, I go get it.
Right.
I got to insist me coming to his studio, and I know I'm going to be in the middle of this track I've never heard before, and go, wow, if it was at my place, I could have played this, this, and this on it, but I brought this, this, and this. So it's
right. Yeah, it's kind of hard. There's only so much cartridge. You can walk in with like 2 boxes the size of a refrigerator, And
yeah, for buddy rate.
You've got the great room to do it, and so I mean, it's good to be king and have a studio. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to play something. Unfortunately, we're going to have to use a little unorthodox display method. We've had some problems, but it will sound good.
Look,
I've done it before.
Can I pull it up and share my screen?
It'll look like
Can
this.
wait, Neil? Can I pull it up and share my screen, or
Absolutely.
let me see if I still have it? Did I
Okay.
I texted you that link? Let's see.
Yeah, and the problem was Facebook locked me out. It's not taking my password. And anyway, it's a long story, but we won't get into it. I'll just tell you, I can't get into my account at the moment. I don't think I'm
I see.
being
Let me
punished for
see.
behavior, but
Trying to get past the ad. Oh, here it is. Let me see. Let me see if I can do this. I haven't done this on StreamYard yet, so I just hit present and
yeah, I think you can.
share screen.
I'll remove mine out of this.
It's easy with two monitors, screen sharing works on a good computer. Oh, I had to use Chrome if I want to share audio, so never mind.
Oh, well, this will not look great, but it should sound good. Thankfully, iPad.
Yeah.
Actually, you have one, I'm sure. When I went and picked this thing up and heard the sound out of the new one, I just went, wow, this is pretty damn good for a little quarter-inch
Mhm.
piece of plastic and silicon, you know? But
Yeah.
so tell us about your percussion ensemble.
I just put a link to this video in the. This is Nick Mancini, was a vibe player from New York that moved out to LA for a while, and he just did
I
a ton
know
of
Nick.
gigs. Yeah, everybody knows Nick.
School with him. I went to
Oh,
college
funny.
with him. Holy shit! Like, yeah,
And
I
he would
used to
do the-
watch his jams. Yeah, in college, he's a fucking badass. Dude,
Yeah.
I got excited. That's what's up.
That's very cool, man. It's a small world in our little
It
part
is,
of the
right?
world, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, but he is. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but he is badassery.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
is he back here in the city?
no, he moved to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think there's a city that I'm guessing. I think her family, his wife's family, lived there, and they were offering grants for artists to come hook up. So he's doing great out there. You know, he's playing all the time like he did here. But anyway, back to the story. He would put together these vibe nights and have a bunch of us come down and play duets. And this is with, I'm just spacing on her name. Lolly Allen and I are playing a duet in this one. I don't think this, well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe just play a little bit of it.
You don't get to hear this kind of music unless you're like at school or you're appearing like a percussion ensemble, like, you know, something at Carnegie Hall or one of these. It's hard to find. And I never see like two xylophone players jamming. So
Yeah, it's not really. We're both playing vibes in this one. It's just, you know, it's like a jazz quartet, but with two vibes instead.
It sounds cool. I really liked it. I'm glad you sent something our way that's cool.
Yeah, you can cut it there. It
All right,
just goes on for another 10 minutes like that.
tells
So.
everybody That's where it's
Yeah.
at, people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rick, he's set up for a session, and he's got like all these sort of you came in, but he's got his studios in a state of confusion at the moment. Actually, he's not confused, but the rest of us might be. It's statistical density of percussion instruments is quite. There's a lot in the room.
Well, right now it's just like actually the vibes are set up over there. We're playing with the one shot deal, which is the Zappa Plays Zappa tribute band
Right.
without Dweezil. We're playing at the Baked Potato next Friday, Saturday. So
what's the Dweez up to these days? Is he planning a
no
tour?
idea. Don't care. Don't know. Don't care. Don't know what he's up to.
That's cool. I got it.
And we're gonna leave it at that.
Moving on. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, that's all good, man, in the world. Absolutely.
But the band's really fun. It's basically the 2010 band, but Chris Norton lives in Australia right now, so he's not around. So we got John Sindelman is playing, and he's amazing and knows the tunes as
Cool.
well as we do. But it's with the old lineup. It's Sheila Gonzalez, who plays sax and keyboards and sings, mind blowing. And Ben Thomas is our front guy, and he also plays trombone and trumpet and guitar as well. So yeah, Gina's gonna come. Yeah, come check it out, Gina. It should be great. But I tell you, buy tickets because it's gonna. One show's already sold out, and the other 3 will sell out. It's Friday, Saturday. But Ben Thomas does everything, and when he came on the band, he was the 3rd singer we had with Zappa Plays Zappa. He's great because he really pulls off the humor stuff really well, and he's a great singer and he's a good musician in a lot of ways. And then Jamie Kime on guitar, who is one of the original people with Sheila and I, and he plays the Baked Potato a lot. He's doing a ton of stuff around town. Pete Griffin is the bass player, and in my humble opinion, I think Pete is the best bass player in the kind of rock and fusion scene around LA these days. He's mind blowing. Joe Travers, of course, the Vaultmeister, is playing drums. Who knows more about?
He knows. I was watching that guy. He knows every lick. I mean,
yeah, but he also knows every detailed trivia, history, everything about everything. It's kind of crazy. And then John Sindelman and myself also. So it should be a fun time. Did I forget anybody? No, I think I got everybody.
If we didn't, don't worry. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
No, it's okay. But yeah, it should be pretty fun. We're doing some. If you've seen the gig before, we have a good variety of the kind of really of a span of years of Frank stuff. We added a couple new tunes that are really difficult, so I have to get in there and practice a little bit every day. Haven't practiced as much in a long time.
Oh man, I hear you. That for sure. And that's just some. First off, if you don't know it, if you're just learning it, which I know you're not, but I've tried to teach people in a band, and I tell them we're going to play some Zappa in like Florida. They're like, I don't think so. We're not doing any of that. Come on, man.
Well, a lot of it, we transcribed and played years ago, and I'm surprised how fast some of these lines came back. But we rehearsed so much, we played so much. It's been 10, 12 years since I was in the band. I guess I was downsized in 2012.
Wow. It's funny. Dweezil we opened up for him once in Tampa, Florida, at the Florida Chorus. And I worked there and was booking all the entertainment. But here's where it got weird. That 3 steps of separation reared its ugly head. Mm-hmm. Our guitar player was Jerry Outlaw, who's the major domo of Bogus Pop, a very, very good Zappa tribute band. In fact, until Dweezil came along, they were the shit. I mean, they'd go to play Zappa Now every year, and we'd get them in. They'd have the symphony orchestra. They'd rent the music from the Zappa family from Gale, $10,000 to get all the scores for everybody. Do just a mind-blowing show. Like every 3 or 4 years, they'd get some backers, a couple of law firms to take care of the music charges and all that. But phenomenal. So there's a lot of Bogus Pomp fans in Tampa that came out to see us and Dweezil because we had Jerry playing with us, and we opened up, and we, a good, strong regional local band, and he was out with Lisa Loeb. It was just an acoustic duo, so it was a whole drastically change of sound. But during their show, some goob's out in the audience videotaping him, and he has a Bogus Pomp t-shirt on. Now, Jerry had introduced himself, but they were kind of busy, and this is when Dweezil was first getting into business. It's got to be like 15, maybe 18 years ago. And anyhow, somehow their manager thought that one of our band or one of our cohorts was videotaping the show. We weren't. didn't know anything about it, but this guy wades out into the crowd, and then I find out that they're pissed at us. Like we have done something, like we were the ones who were setting up to videotape their show. I don't know what they really thought, but I was kind of like, hey, some idiot in a bogus Pomp t-shirt takes a video of you guys. Take it up with him. It had nothing to do with us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We were getting along great, but it was just there was that little stone in somebody's shoe. It kind of put a pale on the whole festivities of the afternoon, you know.
Yeah, it can happen.
A couple of roadies went out and dragged the guy out. But it was
Yeah, now these days you can't stop it. There's no way to stop it.
Say, let him go, because you're right. It's everybody's got their camera out, and I've done it myself, but I'm not going to sit there for 3 hours and take a video. You're going to go home. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on all kinds of things. I just don't.
Right.
I don't want to be a human camera holder for 3 hours of a good show.
Yeah.
But that's cool. You know, have you noticed how is the cash flow as far as for musicians on the street in LA since COVID? Is it halfway back, 3/4, a third?
I don't really know. I mean, sessions are in full swing again, the guys that are doing sessions. And it seems that for a while, live bands are out there playing a lot, and it seems like that might still be happening. But, you know, I don't know if I really am the guy that has my finger on the pulse of that whole scene. You know, guys are still working, but I know some guys that are driving for Uber part-time still since the pandemic. You know, and the sad thing, you know, when the pandemic hit, I'm sure we talked about this the last time, you know, it's hard to describe to people who had never lost their work during the pandemic what it was really like. Sure. You know, I'd have friends that would say, oh, yeah, no, I really miss my friends. This is such a drag. And I say, how about you don't know if your industry is ever going to come back?
Yeah.
And you can't see your friends.
The next variant, you know, the little existential dread is heavy, you know.
No, it was. And that's a great word, the existential dread, because at the beginning, until we had a vaccine, which came like a year before they predicted it, you know, it was just like, what if it never comes back? What if we can never do recording sessions with people? What if we can never perform live? What if we can never tour again? I mean, I knew cats that were major touring guys making big money,
like
who were driving for Uber Eats.
Done.
You know, it sucked. It sucked out loud, and it's just like you know, nobody wanted to talk about it. I guess nobody wanted to really admit out loud that this was terrible. But I had a lot of conversations with friends of mine who, you know, they've lost 2 weeks of work. You know, and then they worked from home. It was fine. And I get it. But unless you were in the entertainment or hospitality and the restaurants for a while also.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't think people really understood how bad it was, you know.
You know, there's lots of restaurants and bars that haven't opened, like New York City compared to 3 years ago. Post-COVID, man, a lot of the smaller clubs just couldn't make it. You know, it's some of the major venues that we've like grown up, you know, we're having financial problems. The only reason some of them lasted because they have that legacy. They've been open, you know.
Well, that also, and there was that whole Save Our Stages thing, which really worked for a lot of places. Got a lot of money. I mean, it did bother me to hear that Hamilton got $5 million or something. It's like, you know, they don't need that, you know. But your smaller clubs are the ones that the iconic ones. What down the Saint Rock down in, was that Redondo, Hermosa Beach?
Right.
They went under, and that was a killer venue that supported local live music and touring acts and stuff like that. It is tragic that they went away, and you know. So, but anyway, we're past that, and you can definitely feel that. Well, I think when people started returning, going out, I think a lot of people were just so hungry for live music. Right. That they went out and did really well. And I try to remind people, you know, just tip something. Because
I know myself, it changed. They said one day I had a session, I was trying to finish up some music, and I had the studio booked and everything was great. It was on a Wednesday. It was back when this all started, and they all of a sudden said, we got a shelter in place. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? My friend called me, and I'm like, hey, I've got the studio booked. We can go down there, and we'll be alone. It'll just be me and you. You know, you go in, you knock it out. I'll do what I got to do. And he goes, I can't, man. And I'm like, well, why? Perfect day. There's nobody in there. Fuck, we have the whole place. I'll book 8 hours. We'll be in there at midnight. No, I'm sheltering in place. And I was like, I wasn't taking it seriously yet. I'm thinking, I'll be fine. You know, this ain't going to bother me. I don't go anywhere. No. All of a sudden, within a week, everything had shut down, and it was so weird, and I didn't know quite what I was going to do. But it's how the show came about. I was bored. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I started that whole live at 0 BPM thing. Remember the show I did?
Got the shirt right there. Are you still
when we?
I gotta go.
No, it went. Oh, I still have shirts. Yeah, but if anybody hadn't seen it, I have a recording studio, and I was trying to figure out live streaming anyway.
Right.
So I got it kind of figured out. There was no manual on how to do this. Is to run 8 cameras and do pro audio and link it all in and get it up on the internet without it being all screwed up. So I went through all this, and then when we were allowed to have like groupings of 3 people, 6 feet apart, I started having trios, and yeah, they wore masks. We did everything, but for a long time, it was the only live jazz venue in Los Angeles. I was running everything myself.
At first, Toby introduced me, and I kept going.
That's right.
I didn't know you from anything at the point.
Yeah, no, Toby was great at promoting and helping get. But the thing is, it was built to fill the gap until clubs opened again.
Yeah.
And then when things started opening up again, and we were 100% tip based, and I'm proud to say that over 2 years we tipped out $36,000 to musicians. So. Nobody got rich, but it was something. It was a place to play, and got to the second year, and people were spending the money elsewhere. And then summer comes up in LA, and nobody's home at 7:00 at night. So I decided it had done its thing. PBS didn't call and offer me my own show.
I know.
So I failed in that aspect of it.
Maybe Amazon. I don't know. Like Joe Rogan, it's only 80 million or 800 million or whatever. Yeah, so many millions. I didn't even care after a certain amount of zeros. I was just like, it'll work out.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a ton of work, but it gave me a purpose. And we talked about that existential dread. I'd be lying in bed in the morning going like, well, why get up? Mm-hmm. And that gave me a reason to get up, because I had all the voiceovers to do. And you saw I did the voiceovers, I had all the graphics, I had show bumpers, I had all this kind of fun stuff. I wanted to make it look more than just, hey, here's my laptop and I'm singing a song in front of it. So, but it was fun. And I'm very proud of it. And, people ask if I'm going to bring it back, and it's like, man, I don't even know if I could get that set up working again. So
I tell you, it is a learning process for sure. And I don't know. I mean, I've been through, this is the 3rd computer, got a big Mac, and it's a beast, and I love it because just being able to have everything on the screen when I'm trying to control. I used to have an operator doing that, and when Mandy's here, sometimes like we'll switch off. I always tell her, if you're feeling impulsive and a sound effect is warranted, just throw it in there, because babble it about anything. Do some Foley, if I say something bad, she can give me the shock collar, stuff like that. It's all old time radio crap, but really. We're just here to have fun, talk about music, how artists come on and hang out. And Neil and Sklar said it's just the Neil and Lee talk shit about music. And I said, that's pretty much all it is, And,
I for a while I was doing the Jazz Roundtable. It was a talk show, and people could come in remotely, and we had it hooked up, and they could play in stereo. And I mean, now all the services do it, but man, it was like pulling. It was so frustrating to try to figure it out, and they had to log in a very specific way, and they had to set up so I'm sure it's a lot easier these days. But
I'm watching you and thinking about the learning curve and what you were doing, and I was kind of myself trying to figure it out at a distance. Going, fuck, getting another camera involved, and then a switcher, and it gets. If you haven't been trained in signal flow and where things go, I mean, it's a little vexing, but. Musicians, we got time to study it. That COVID was good for some of us.
I'll tell you one thing. This is the tip for people that are listening to live streams. Video and audio don't lock going into the internet. They go on their own, what they call a codec, and you just hope and pray that it actually gets to the server that way, and then they separate again and go individually back to the viewer. So I can be streaming 100% correctly, and somebody's got a 10-second delay, somebody's got none, somebody's got a minute delay. It's like, that's going back to your system. And that's very frustrating. And a couple of times it got so bad, I just had to restart everything. But, Facebook will hang out until you reconnect. YouTube won't.
Right.
So there's all these different things. And for me, it was just one guy, and I'm doing mixing the audio because we mic everything up. I'm switching all the video. I'm controlling the bumpers, doing all the dialogue, reading 3 chat rooms and stuff. And after a while, it's just like, we just got to reset.
Man, I really do. I totally get it. But it's just like there's sometimes, depending on how tired you are the night before, if you're really tired, everything's going at one time. It can be, as you say, there's monitors and 2 chat rooms going on, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Do you use to do your? This is a tech question. Anybody out there who does any broadcasting or has multiple sites? Do you use anything to feed all of your different social media sites? Are you using an?
I used Restream. I had software on my Mac. I actually ran the audio on a separate computer, and then I would send stereo over to the Mac that would do all the video switching.
Okay.
And it would take that program, and that would go to Restream, which is restream.io. And then on Restream, and they got better and better and better over the time. So they actually finally, their automated thing was great, because instead of me sending, however much video and audio I was sending, if I wanted to send it to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, that's double the bandwidth I need. And then if I was also sending it to Twitch for a while as well, and Twitter as well. So but Restream, you just send one feed there, and they split it to all of your social media sites, which saves a ton of bandwidth going out and that sort of thing. And I don't know how interesting this is to people who want to see a music show, but but that's what you can use. And I'm happy if you have a couple of questions I can, but you seem to be doing very well with your setup.
Well, the thing is, you're like one of the only people, if I get in the weeds, I'd call who actually know what the hell I'm talking about, because there she is. She's back.
Oh, hi. I didn't mean to bust in. I just wanted to.
No, we're glad you're here, by all means.
I had a lot of phone calls from a lot of people trying to figure out streaming, because they knew that I was spending 80 hours a week trying to figure out, because there was no tutorial online. I should have written one. I should have done a course on it. But, it's just what I learned, that was just like pick it and then try and test and test and test.
When that light bulb goes off, sometimes you just feel like, how did I overlook this? I've been like fumbling. You get into the weeds. Well,
I had one issue I was dealing with, and I don't know if this is interesting to people in music, but I'll just do it as briefly as possible. I kept having dropouts when a guest would come in, because I was using Ecamm Live, which is an amazing program. And then I was using, what did I use for, I was using, where is it? Not Ecamm. Anyway, I had a different program I used for the bands because it worked better for that sort of switching, but Ecamm is what I used for guests. And it kept having these dropout problems. And I kept looking, and I put a Wi-Fi booster out there. I ran direct cables. And what I found out was a small chat room, a guy talking about a gaming problem. Because it was they figured out it was and it was this weird little phrase that I could not find anywhere else on the internet. And it turns out I had to get a different router that the gamers use and run a lifetime directly. That was it. But it took me literally 2 weeks of spending all day looking for it. It was just, that's how much all of this was breaking technology. I mean, it was fine if you wanted to, go Facebook Live and play your acoustic guitar and pretty things. Or people would set up a laptop and have a band play, but it's like, no. That doesn't sound great. It doesn't present well.
Good. You're right. It's a hellish experience, but you kind of learn. I mean, even just adding a good microphone to your setup makes an amazing difference. Although,
I went through a bunch of different microphones. I'll tell you, I got the, I got the Rode, because this is very affordable and it works pretty well. And then I went, it's not in here, but I got the, the big fancy AKG that everybody uses.
Everybody's got to buy it.
Yes. But you know what I ended up using? I really like this. This is the Samson. And the cool thing about this is it's XLR and USB.
I love it.
And it sounds really great. You can't scream into it or anything, but but it's just got a lot of features. And this was like $100. This was, I think, 200. And then the SM7 is 450 or something. And I ended up using this one, just for the talking stuff.
The SM7. To me, the SM7 just sounds like.
USB. with the USB.
I didn't try it with the USB, but because I was going XLR into my whole recording system and doing it that way. But I also know the guy that owns Samson, and he's a great guy. And I just really like the way the mic sounded. Made me sound very professional when I did my radio voice.
That's
So
right. Come on down, get one. We're going to send out 3 free. Something like
yes,
that.
that's right.
That's how you sound when you buy that mic, you know? Like those fancy basketball shoes make you play basketball.
It's got a Don Pardo switch on the back.
Oh, great. Got the John Pardo. Speaking of
It's a car. So,
what a voice that guy had, man.
yeah.
Tell you.
Anyway, I know your fans are music listeners, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? There's a lot of musicians. I have a pretty diverse audience. A lot of musicians who come on and just see what kind of, if we have somebody really great, or if they're going to have a scintillating conversation about XLR and USB microphones. Who the hell knows?
Well, a lot of guys are getting into the streaming thing, and one of the things I can't recommend highly enough is using some sort of software that allows you to switch.
Yes.
Because if you're a guitar player and you can play this, then you got to have a close-up camera, and then you might want to have a camera on your gear pedals, and just be able to switch for that. And then for a while, I mean, you can do it all on the keyboard. They have hotkeys that do it, but the app that I was using had it set up for a couple of different pads, and so I had all my cameras on here, and I could play all this stuff. And this is just the Akai something, and
it's an NPC
it's the Akai APC Mini.
Whatever you're wanting to control, that's great.
And that made it a lot easier. I wasn't having to switch screens to do something, because if I was answering chats, I'd have to switch back to the application. This I could. I didn't have to have I really have to find out what the app was, because I love this video app. Why do I not have it on my? It was called Wirecast. It was Wirecast. And it was kind of expensive. Wirecast.
Okay.
So, and I really liked it. I got a test module the day of a show.
Oh, sure.
Tested it out at Soundcheck, bought it, and used it that night on the show.
It worked. It was all
and smooth. It worked great. And then just the layers, and it got better and better and better, as did Restream, as did all these things. Just got better and easier and to use. They've integrated this, and they just kind of built up and up and up. So there's a ton of people, but with a simple program like that, and I think even Restream now, you can broadcast directly to that. But just having some way to switch cameras is a great way to do it, because it makes it just that much more interesting. Setting up your background. I didn't do it here because, the f-stop on these cameras is not great.
Right.
But what I wish I could do is I wish I could kind of blur out the background.
Right.
You've got a separate background behind you, or the green screen thing is another way, because it draws attention to the talking head and not getting distracted by, what microphone does he have here in the background? And what is it? Because my normal background, has the mallet. Well, the mallet cat normally goes, but the piano and the gong, all that sort of stuff.
I put that to hide my saxophones. I had all my saxophones out today. When you were talking about gear, I was like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can aim green screen on your stuff.
Yeah, and there's another interesting. This is another trick that I learned. Is they say the ring lights are going out of style because they were invented to showcase makeup, so you could see it evenly in all sorts of the faces. But that's not naturally how we see faces. Mm-hmm. So now, I set up my light over here, and it's more. And this isn't great, obviously, but it's I'm getting a little bit more light on one. Well, because I have a light up here, but the kind of shadows on the face seems more natural to people. The way Mandy's face looks is a little bit more natural because there's a little bit of shadow on one side. It's all these weird little things I'm learning about that just make it more interesting for people.
Absolutely.
And more direct
have
focus.
A 2-camera shot on the host. Just going from 2-shot and a 1-shot.
Yeah, and if you had another camera, you could just do the quick. And that's what we need. And then go back to your main camera.
Well,
and you can have fun.
Before we go, it's amazing. We're almost at the end of the show, but Rick Davis, our man about town and musical expert of all things, talk about the High Voltage Band a little bit.
So 2 weeks out of college, I was on the road with Maynard Ferguson, a jazz trumpet player. He was known, but he had been doing a small electric band called the High Voltage Band, and I was part of High Voltage 2, which is basically a whole new band came in at one point. And so that was, my first road gig ever. Like I said, 2 weeks out of college. And I was playing the mallet cat, which is the MIDI mallet instrument that you play instead of vibes. And I had my vibes also, but it's funny, at the beginning, me and Dave Samuels were the only people touring with the mallet cat. And it was just kind of funny because I was talking to the owner of the company. This one weird little story. And I go, oh yeah, no, we're driving up to the Midwest. And he says like, well, how are you transporting the mallet cat? I said, well, it's in a case, but it's at the bottom of the bus. He goes, should it go through like freezing temperatures? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, well, we never tested that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, I hope it works when I get to the gig. So it was just kind of funny things like that because, a lot of these newer instruments that came out, nobody was touring with the mallet cat. And now it's much more popular, but
well, that's been around, like you said, for a long time. I remember when it came out, I was just all excited. I was like, oh, this looks great. I got to buy one.
1987, I think, is when it came out because I saw it and I was looking for things to do when I graduated. So I actually became a rep for the company.
Excellent.
But then, like, immediately after graduating, I was on the road. So that kind of fell to the wayside. But I really liked the instrument, what it could do, and the updates. And it allowed me to, with a loud band, now I can play marimba. Like Zappa plays Zappa. It was the marimba, the xylophone, but it also was timpani, it was percussion, it was trombone. I played Barry sax on tunes. I played violin. I could do all these other things.
Right.
And with in-ear monitors, I could now play with this band that was louder than anything I'd ever experienced. I came from basically Lou Rawls.
Right.
Zappa plays Zappa, and Lou's band, I had a monitor with literally that much bass in it, and that's it.
Right.
Lou didn't use monitors or side fills on stage.
Oh, shit.
He sang off the mains, which is mind blowing. So, I mean, we're playing jazz and some R&B stuff. And so, but back to Rick's question about High Voltage. I was on the band for 2 years. I got to write a song for the album High Voltage 2 and co-wrote a song with Maynard, which was really fun to do. Went up to his house in Ojai for the weekend and we worked on a tune. It was fun. It's a great experience, getting, you're really right out of college, getting paid to play jazz all over the world, and we got to write the tunes. We get to solo all night and everything. It was a great experience. Maybe one of the most.
It sounds like I envy that experience. I don't really envy it. I just think it's so tremendous. I'm like happy, you got to do it because I know to be that age and all of a sudden you're with Maynard Ferguson, man. That's just like wow.
Yeah, we were not making a ton of money, but Maynard couldn't afford a ton of money. And I look back on some things, I just go, man, I just really missed that gig. It was, it was really fun in that way. So,
it's
interesting. I mean, just go with stories like I left Maynard in the middle of a tour to go home and fly home and audition for Natalie Cole. I literally landed. The next day I auditioned for Natalie, got the gig, rehearsed that night. The next day I was on a flight to Atlanta.
Did you know Janelle Sadler?
I did. She wasn't on the gig when I was. She was, I think, way after me. I did 89 to 91. I was doing the Good to Be Back tour.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
cool.
Different set of background singers on that gig. So
yeah, right. It's funny because she came from Tampa and headed out to LA like lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Tampa expat. But when I worked in a studio out of school, we were Jingle Factory, man. We were churning out the jingles. She was like one of our best singers.
Oh, she's great.
When I walk in back of my head, I'd be like, oh, thank God it's her and not this other one. I like the other chick would come in, she'd be like all over, and I'd be like, oh man, it's gonna be Ruby here for hours. I always was like, I get her or Belinda Womack. I don't know if you know her. She's a jazz singer.
I don't, but
Belinda's like got that, not like Natalie, more of a big. She's more like oh God, not Diana Ross, the chick from the Blues Brothers, Aretha. She had that Aretha voice, man. Feel pain off the ceiling. I just love that. They don't make them like that all the time. But.
No, they don't.
Now I tell you, this young lady here, she can definitely hit the notes and peel the paint off the ceiling.
Thanks.
I enjoyed it. I can sing enough to get the show done and get it and sound fine. But when you have a great singer, I'm going to do the backups. They'll be real tight and concise, and I'll pay attention to what they're doing. But why sing when you've got like a bunch of really great singers? I know enough how to do it and play. I've done plenty of shows by myself doing it, but I'd much rather have. It's like having a great guitar player than having some who showed up for a one-nighter and everybody's like, "Oh man." He's so
Natalie definitely had some amazing background singers with her, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, really. And from everybody I know who's worked with her, they've all said such a great lady to work for.
And then I did a short 10-day tour of Japan with a little vocal group you may have heard of, the Manhattan Transfer.
Man, that sounds like rough. That was some rough duty, man. Really, God.
It was actually, it was really cool. That's like the only gig I've ever done where I'm like on stage playing and I'm like going, that's the Manhattan Transfer right there. And I did with a lot of people, but it was just like, because we wore those back in college in the late 80s, we wore those records out. I mean, that Birdland and all that stuff was just amazing. And just to go and hang with them and play for 10 days was a lot of fun. It was a killer band.
That's me. That's like a paid vacation, man. Go and have a good time.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a funny story because when I had my band playing early 2000s, Craig Sharmat was a guitar player, and he was good friends with one of the guy singers in the Manhattan Transfer, Alan Paul. And he came to one of the shows. And so, I gave him a CD, and a year later or something, he called me up and said he wanted to do 2 of the songs with the Manhattan Transfer, wanted to put lyrics to them and do them. And they all liked one of them. So they did this one song for the album, and I did all the percussion here at my studio, overdubs, and I got to go watch them do the recording. So that was pretty cool, I got to say. And then, I don't know but later they decided to have me come. The sax player couldn't make a trip to Japan, so they had me come play vibes and percussion. It was a blast. So.
Oh, that sounds like great fun.
Yeah.
Did you have any unique food experiences while you were in Japan?
Well, I used to go a lot. I've been to Japan like 25 times. So and I'm vegan now. I've been vegan for 30 years. But before that, I would literally go out with my buddies Japanese friends, and I would say, I'll try anything you want to put in front of me. And so I didn't eat any fugu or anything like that, but I ate some stuff that was that they wouldn't eat. I said, I don't think I can finish this. You guys have. And they're like, no. So
a lot of times they just play, we're going to tease the gaijin anyway.
But I said, look, I'll just order me. I mean, we weren't at these weird little hidden places. This is a regular restaurant. We went back then. We go to the kind of restaurants that the younger people and the collegiate people and all that stuff would go to. So they were really fun places. Chugged a lot of beers with a lot of Japanese guys and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I tried a couple things. I just remember one that it looked like swamp moss or swamp. And it was like that's kind of what it tasted like. It was not great.
So it's not something you're going to put on the menu at home every other week on the barbecue or football weekend.
No, I don't know. I think the pond moss would just you'd have to get a special way to barbecue it, I think. And that.
Okay. Well, thanks for being on with us. I really enjoyed having you. It's good talk and hang, and next time. This has just been one of those days. I'm going to be really careful shutting things off, make sure I don't get electrocuted. It's just like
seriously though.
Really,
just use a stick. Just use a long stick to push the.
Like somebody put the Molotov on me. It's like, my God, what's going on today? But it is, there's nothing better than spending time with good friends, talking music.
That's right.
For the people watching, they don't know always what we're going to give them. Sometimes it's going to be a real comedic show. It depends who comes on. Sometimes we'll get a guest. I don't know. I want to have Crispin Glover on just because, having watched him on Letterman, I just want to have him come on and do whatever he does.
One thing that I noticed when I was hosting the talk show thing is some people are very natural at talking and hanging out. And some people you have to pull everything out of. Or I would do some of them I would do a pre-interview with. It's like, well, that's a great story. Let's do that. And you get them on and they already told it. So they wouldn't really tell it the same way again. And but before you mentioned that I was interviewing, and a lot of people need that help. And I was talking to Grant Geisman ahead of time, not Grant Geisman, who was on the show, but Gordon Goodwin.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, well, he says, look, are we going to do the whole thing? I said, okay, you know what? You're right. You know how to do this because he's done a million of them. And he was great online. But some people, they weren't as, I don't know, if the camera light goes on or something, they get a little shy. We're used to having our instrument in our hands.
Like been on stage all the time and they go ghost on you. Like while you're there, they just. I had a heavy metal bass player once, and I just was like, "So, what do you do when you're not playing in a band?" We had to think, and there wasn't even a hint of a hobby or a girlfriend or something. And I was like, so I just said to him, like, "So you're a very talkative man. Do you have a manifesto?" And I found out that he really didn't have a sense of humor. I was taking up a GoFundMe to try and show him. He's very German in his outlook. Is that funny? I don't know. What is this father listening to? He just didn't. There was no warmth, and I just worked with it. But I had fun.
Yeah, you gotta bring it out.
That's I had to fun at him because after a while he was such a character. He was a cartoon, really, of a bass player. The quiet guy who won't talk to anybody. That was him. And I used to send
a little questionnaire ahead of time to try to figure out what they want to talk about. Like, do you have any hobbies? Do you have a soapbox of music that you want to stand on and talk about? You got a thing. What topics do you want to talk? What do you want to avoid? And things like that. And then you could kind of, and even with the people that weren't great, you could say, okay, I'm going to find a thing that they like. And then, like on the show, I wanted to do like, name that player. It was one of the sax and guitar players. And one of the guys, I don't want to do that. I'm no good at that. So let's just not do it. And I was like, well, it would be funny.
Oh, come on, man.
But he didn't want to portray. And then I had the trumpet players on. And I said, let's do some trumpet trivia. And, a lot of it was, who invented the trumpet. But some of them was like, the one question was, true or false, was trumpet playing ever an Olympic sport? and these guys all had personalities, so we made it fun, and it was none of them knew. And yes, it used to be back in ancient Greece, trumpet playing, and supposedly there was a guy that could play 10 trumpets. Anyway, it was just funny, weird things like that.
Right.
And a lot of them didn't know the answers to any of the questions, but they had fun with it, and so it didn't matter. It wasn't like I was trying to show them up. You don't know your instrument. It's just we could use this as a venue to be more interesting, and so. But you got to have the right people for that. Had it been some other people who might have just like, man, why did you put me on the spot? I don't want to,
Oh yeah.
Well, you can just tell with some people when they come on. It's like in seconds. It's like this. Like Lee Sklar did that. First time I ever had him and met him on the show. I mean, I'd met him on tour.
Yeah.
But he, I said, so do you think you can? I asked him if he could do something. He goes, no. Like my first time I've met the guy, I'm like, he got me good. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. The show was pretty new. I'm like, I'm sure I do okay with this guy. He's only played on 4,000 hit records. I don't want to screw this show up too bad.
Yeah.
But he got me, and then I realized he was just playing around, and then I walked right into it. That's what it's all about. It's having fun.
Eric Marienthal, the sax player, is one of our guests. It's like, so Eric, would you want to play something? And he just slowly picked up a saxophone. He goes, oh, well, look what I have here. So I guess so. And then, he pushed the button and went into a stereo track that he played along. It was actually really fun. So, it's, I think most musicians are kind of extroverted anyway, but they're used to doing it, like I said, with an instrument in their hand.
Yes.
When I first started talking, it's like, if I was standing behind my vibes or my percussion, give me the microphone on stage, I'll talk all day. But if you put me up there in front, it'd be like, because I didn't have that built-in, hey, if my talking sucks, I'm up here to play. So it's not as big a deal. It's just getting used to not having that in your hands. It's just like, there's a great line I heard.
He would do something like that because of my uncomfort. It's about the comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I'm sitting behind my kit. I feel great, man. I'll talk and sing. And he'd go, I'd be like at the gig, and he'd go, come on up. We got a friend of ours coming up to play. And I'm heading for the drum kit, and all of a sudden he grabs me and he goes, oh, no, Zinkaloy, you're going up front. Because he knew it was put on the spot. And he'd love to do that. And so I went from standing there like, terrified. Thank God he did it, because it took me a while to be not just freeze up and choke, You got
to push that comfort. I saw a meme the other day that I really liked. It said, everybody you know will be gone in 3 generations. Even the people that criticized you. So what the hell do you care what they think? And it's just such a great line, My dad used to say that when I was a kid. What the hell do you care what other people think? And it's just like, when you're 10 years old, you care what everybody thinks.
All right, everybody, we're out of here.
Okay.
It is Friday. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hi.
Be good.
Thanks,
be
guys.
careful. If you can't be careful, name it after me. All right, people? We're going to rock and roll.
53rd.
Friday.
5, 4, 3, 2,